Basically, this happened when I was 17 during the summer. I would often get a vanilla frappe with cream on top after school, right? And it cost about £2.60 with cream, and it was $2.40 without cream. So one day I went to buy my frappe after my mother had picked me up. After counting the pile of coins twice, she stated she didn't have enough spare change in the car for the cream top, but I said that it was fine, and I just took what she gave me. I took the change, accepted it, and I'd forego the cream this time around. As I was in the queue, I kept counting my change, out of boredom. I also had an obsessive habit of counting, just in case I made a mistake, so as to save the embarrassment of realizing that I was short of money in front of the cashier. So I counted the money 6 times, making sure to space out the coins so as to not miss any coins as I was counting, then proceeded to hold it in my clutched fist. Suddenly a thought popped into my head, and I thought, hey, wouldn't it be nice if my money suddenly multiplied? Keep in mind, this wasn't a thought that I initiated myself. It was just something that randomly popped into my head. I had no reason to think about and did not feel really natural, if you know what I mean. I entertained the thought as a joke afterwards because I knew this kind of a thing would never happen to me. And not only that, it was physically impossible. Fast forward, I get to the cashier and order my frappe. And as I go to pay, I realize that I have 4 times the amount of change in my palm as before. Out of nowhere, more than enough money to buy a cream topping. My eyes probably tripled in size. I realized that I was starting to look crazy to the cashier, so I composed myself and acted like nothing had happened, smiled, got my drink with extra cream, and left. On my way out, I was frantically trying to bend the new coins that I had found in my fist. I thought they must have been fake or something. But no, they were all real, all right. I got to the car and told my mother, and she admitted that she had prayed for me to be able to afford it. So the thought had popped into my head, and it happened at the same time that my mother was praying. I guess it was something telepathic, and it was some kind of a message notification from God, the Matrix programmers, my mom, or whoever. Basically, I ended up with more change than when I started. I know that didn't happen on accident, and it had to have been some kind of intervention from someone or something. Two things happened recently, and it's messing with my wife and I. Although minor, I didn't think much of it until I stumbled on this forum. So 2 weeks ago, we ran out of paprika, straight up empty bottle or container. We didn't have any in the back or hidden in our pantry. We did our grocery shopping that weekend and bought a little container of paprika. We started putting our stuff away, and what's in the very front of our pantry? A new container of paprika. We laughed and we were confused, like, oh boy, how did we miss this bottle? But then the same thing happened to me again this week. My wife wanted to try a new recipe that called for red wine vinegar. We never bought red wine vinegar in the 5+ years we've been married. Not by accident, never. So we do our groceries, buy a bottle of red wine vinegar, and head home, put our stuff away, and what do we suddenly have in our pantry? An unopened bottle of red wine vinegar that conveniently has the date March 2021 that's labeled on it. I don't know if this is a glitch, but I definitely can't explain how this happened. The red wine situation freaked us out a bit, so I thought I'd share it. So a while ago, maybe 5 years or so, me and some friends broke into an abandoned house. The front door was completely blocked off and sealed. You would have had to destroy it to get in that way. We got in by breaking a window in the backyard and climbing in. It was a long abandoned home. The architecture was from the early 1900s, maybe even late 1800s. It was quite interesting, actually. We found a bunch of old books, newspapers, and notes, gone brownish and yellow from age, with dates on them from the 1920s and 30s. I remember one handwritten note that had the date May 1930 something. I can't remember the exact year, but it was in the 30s at the top, and it said something like, "Dear so-and-so, how's your family? How's your child with the flu? Are they all right?" And blah, 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 stuff like that. Anyways, there was a bunch of crap everywhere. Like, I mean, all over the place. You could barely walk. Destroyed furniture, a doll collection, a broken grand piano, and books and stuff, like I had mentioned. This is just important to remember for the story. So we went to explore the basement of this house, but we couldn't because the stairs leading down were destroyed. The first 2 steps of the top were there, then there was a giant gap, then the very last step before the bottom. The stairs, what was left of them, were old and crappy looking. They were cracked, dark brown, and moldy. So we said screw it, and we just took off. The next day we went back with another friend, and this time there was a ladder laid flat over the giant gap in the stairs, with rugs acting like makeshift steps. We thought this was a little weird, but figured somebody else must have come in when we weren't there and laid the ladder over the gap to get to the basement. We ended up climbing down the ladder and exploring ourselves. After that, we left again. The next day, for some reason, we went back again. This time, though, the stairs were intact. No ladder, no giant gap. All the steps were there. And I'm not talking about repaired. If somebody had repaired them, they would have looked brand new compared to everything else in the house. New wood and new everything else that would have been necessary to put in a new case of stairs. But they didn't. What was missing before and was now there looked just as old and crappy as everything else in the house. Old, dark brown, cracked, moldy wood. These stairs were not repaired. They were never broken to begin with, which was completely impossible because they were. We had seen them broken the night before, and there was no way that somebody brought tools into the house through the sealed front door and all the crap lying all over the place and repaired only the staircase with old wood that was a century old. There's just no way that would have happened. We kind of freaked out after seeing the stairs repaired and quickly left after that. I'm not really a supernatural kind of person. I don't believe in ghosts or even the glitch in the matrix phenomenon or anything related to it for that matter. But to this day, those stairs give me the heebie-jeebies. I have no idea how they fixed themselves, and I wouldn't have believed it if I hadn't seen it with my own eyes. I know it sounds crazy, but it happened. This takes place in the mid-1990s. I was a young lad in my 20s. Those years, my family would take cruises every 2 years, and it was like a family reunion type thing. This one happened to be in the Bermuda Triangle area, so what I'm about to describe might be normal for that part of the world. Me and my cousin were playing ping pong in a room with only one ping pong table in there. The paddles and the balls were kept outside the room. So when we walked in the room, it was just the 2 of us. 2 paddles, 1 table, and 1 ping pong ball. Now we're playing back and forth as usual, and one gets a score as the ball falls onto the floor. We go looking for this ball that can't escape anywhere from the room, not even in a crack under the floor. But it's nowhere to be found after searching this entire room. And I must say the room that we were in was pretty small, so it wasn't like there was a lot of searching that had to be done. We of course brushed it off and just go get another ball and continue playing. Mind you, we had to go out of the room to get this ball. We continue playing as normal, and we hear the sound of a second ball dropping to the floor from somewhere. Then we start tripping out because it was the ball that we had just lost earlier. It made absolutely no sense. How could this thing just fall out of nowhere onto the floor? With my cousin as my witness, how does this happen and what's going on? In the summer of 2014, I was working in Nagoya, Japan, as a teacher at an international preschool. I had a bit of a commute to work, but it wasn't so bad, maybe 45 minutes, 50 minutes tops. For those not in the know, Japan is one of the most punctual countries on the face of the planet. If you, by some unforeseen occurrence, happen to be on a subway train which is late due to a mechanical or other issue, you can actually go to the station manager and request a ticket which you can present to your boss, showing that You were late because of the train. Near the end of my journey was a short bus ride. The bus left every day from the station at the same time. I believe the time was 8:21, and it was maybe a 10 to 15 minute trip. Every day I would meet a coworker at the bus station and we would catch the same bus in. We would pop into a nearby 7-Eleven and grab snacks for the day before walking the rest of the way in. The walk was short from the convenience store to work, less than 10 minutes. We had to arrive by 9 every day to get set up for the kids whom would arrive by 10. So if we left the bus stop at 8:21, figuring 15 minutes, we would stop at 8:36, pop into the convenience store for at the most 5 minutes, absolute most 5 minutes, and leave at 8:41, then take a 10-minute walk to work and arrive at 8:51 max. This is figuring on the higher side of everything, and it was usually much less time than that. But this is where the story starts to get really, really weird. So just picture this. One day, business as usual. We're on the bus on time, we left 7-Eleven on time, and began walking with the timeline mentioned earlier. We arrive and are greeted by our Japanese colleagues informing us that we were late. We figured that maybe we messed around a little bit too much or something, and we were only a few minutes late somehow. But this was not the case. We had arrived at 9:50 in the morning. Our boss was super angry. We were in a mad scramble to get everything ready for that day for the kids. There was no way that we could have taken a walk that we always took, that usually takes about 10 minutes, and arrived an hour late. My coworker seemed a little bit freaked out by this. He never really wanted to discuss it. My boss, oddly enough, never brought it up again after being really angry about it that day, and it has not happened since. I have traced the routes on Google Maps several times and keep coming up blank. Also, Japan does not observe daylight savings time, so that theory is out. I was heating up some soup and decided that I would have some naan bread with it. I had bought this pack of mini naan bread from Costco, so I went into the fridge and took out 4 pieces, put 3 on top of a paper towel, and kept 1 in my hand. I nibbled on the 4th piece, eating about half of it while waiting for my soup to finish. I then put the half-eaten piece with the other 3, got my soup out of the microwave, and wrapped the naan bread in the paper towel to bring it with me with my soup to my desk. I sit down at my desk, unwrap the paper towel, and there are 4 full pieces of mini naan. I flipped each one of them over and over, trying to find any bite marks I might have left, thinking maybe I hadn't fully eaten one of them. But they were all perfectly intact. Then I thought maybe I imagined biting into it. But I still had some tiny bites of bread in my mouth, and I hadn't eaten anything else that day. My boyfriend and I were taking a walk through a long park trail on the outskirts of Seattle, and we just happened to go down the life is a simulation and Mandela effect rabbit hole. We had an ongoing joke about this since we have so many strange experiences. We'll casually be like, well, the simulation is messed up today, and we noticed a period of shift in luck between each other. So we'll joke, it's my reality today and I'm player 1. I'm just giving you context of our joking mentalities at this time and how it was so strange because of the timing. We just happen to be talking about everything and how life has been so strange ever since we started paying attention to this. The park wasn't very crowded at all that day, so we were just walking behind a single family with 2 women and a few kids running around, probably more than 50 yards ahead of us. My boyfriend jokingly pointed to the birds and said, "Yep, it's all fake." And I jokingly pointed to the family ahead and said, "So is that family. Someone is probably watching us, laughing, talking about it." And in that exact moment, the 2 women completely freeze in their tracks, aren't talking anymore, and turn around and stare in our direction, completely in sync. I thought they heard me, but I repeated to him that even with the strong echo, that's impossible with the distance because I pretty much whispered. They continued to stare, though, without moving a muscle. We both looked behind us, like, are they looking at us? But no one was in sight. They just froze. No movement. The kids were just standing around silent too. It lasted for such a long time since we were so far away, and eventually we had to walk to where they were standing. But they just continued to stare into nothing as we walked past them finally. It was so uncomfortable, but I didn't feel right to comment, and being an innocent family, we weren't going to call them out for anything. They weren't bothering anybody really, even with all that weird behavior. We truly just didn't understand what was going on. It took us the rest of the walk to try to digest what had happened, and we weren't even in a joking mood anymore because it was just so strange. They didn't talk, no emotion. They were just looking, and they were just frozen in one direction. First they were looking at us, but as they just stood there, they didn't move and they just stared into nothing. As soon as we were about 20 feet past, they just resumed walking and talking like nothing had happened, and their kids started moving around and playing again. It gives me the chills just to think about it to this day. Okay, this is a little crazy, and I've been seeing this a lot lately, where time moves slow or fast. So today, I got up at around 4 a.m., like I usually do, to see my boyfriend off to work. I messaged him at 9 when he goes on break. I was in the living room till 9:15 at least. After we finished talking, I went into my office to get some work done for the day. I usually play videos or watch TV while I work. I'm a painter. Anyways, I started a new show yesterday, and the episodes are between 39 and 45 minutes long. I was on episode 2 when I started it today. I am now on episode 13. It's been a little more than 2.5 hours, yet somehow I watched 11 hours and 40 minutes worth of episodes. I just looked at the time so I could chat with my BF on his lunch at noon. There's no explanation for me watching that many episodes. It's just impossible. I don't know what's going on, but lately time seems to be really messed up.